We are back. The next topic is something important. It's about this reading and writing, or writing and reading consecutively, or not only changing the mode from read to write, also it is possible to jump from a position to another position for reading or writing purposes. Now, let's assume your file is something like this. It exists. It exists, or it may not exist. If it exists, it is not always possible to jump from this position to another position, this position, and then back again, then forth again. Example, you have a tape, for example. The tape, this information is on a tape. How will you go back on a tape? On a tape, to go back, the only way is to go rewind the tape to the start and then go to a position. So tape is not something random accessible. It is sequential. Almost all streams of data streams, are also not randomly accessible. Let's assume you have a wire connected to another computer, to the USB or to the Ethernet, right? So they have an entry in the file tree under the there. They are some device. For example, your Ethernet connection. You read it when data packages arrive, and you write in sequential terms, in sequence, to the encode wire. Whatever you write is sent to the wire. Now, is it possible for that device to say, look, I'm going to write something to you, now let's write something. Let's write you 100 bytes, and then jump to the future. And I don't give you the intermediate 900 bytes, but from that on, I give you the forthcoming 20 bytes. Nonsense, isn't it? You cannot do something like this. Also, packages arrive to the internet or to the USB, right? Would it be possible to go back and take in some already read package? That is also nonsense. Whatever comes, you have to process it. Whatever that goes out has to be sent in sequence. You cannot mix the sends. So, also, for example, take the keyboard. The keyboard, a human is typing in something. Can you tell the keyboard device to give 100 clicks from now. Nonsense. Also the mouse device. The mouse device continuously sends incrementation or decrementation in x and y, delta x and delta y. Continuous, a stream of continuous delta x and delta y. When you jump in time forward or backward, it is sending you at that moment a data. You cannot go back in time, you cannot go forth in time. But a screen, for example. A screen is something like this. Presumably, it is read as this, then this. So it is traveled in an S type. Now, is it possible for a screen device to say, go to this pixel and light it, or write there a letter T? Why not? Of course, you can do that. A screen device is randomly accessible if it has some intelligent built-in. Usually it has. You can define, go down 16 rows and go to the column 150 and put there a red pixel, like the red pixel. We can do this without going to the formal pixels. So a screen device is randomly accessible. So you cannot generalize as devices except memory devices, hard disks, etc., CDs, are not randomly accessible. No, that's not correct. Definitely it's not correct. It depends. Okay, now let's assume we are dealing with a randomly accessible, physically randomly accessible device. How will we access it? Now, in a randomly accessible device, or actually in any file that you have opened, the information is in bytes. 1 byte, the following byte, the following byte. A file in C is nothing else than a sequence of bytes. This is not so in some other languages files. For example, Pascal keeps a track of what it is stored in here. So it knows it is holding an array of 5 floating points followed by 4 integers. C is not like that. In C, a file is something very raw. It is a sequence of bytes, very much like the memory. Right? Memory is something else, we know, but in C, a file is something like this. File in C. The first byte is named the 0 byte of file. Numbering starts with 0, very much like arrays. The next is the 1 and 2 and 3, that is also called the file index. Or not a good naming, but it is also called the file pointers. Yeah, I know, file, pointer, my file. This was also called a file pointer. That is the pointer to the stream. This is something internal, and it has nothing to do with the story of this cherry-like entity, alpha and tau. No! A file pointer is a pure number. It's a pure number. It's actually an arrow pointing to a byte. It's an index. It's an index. When you open up a file, the index is at the top if something exists in there. If it was created from scratch, then it has only one not written byte to it, and it's something like this. A file is something like a glowing entity. It glows from the end. It can glow only from the end of it. You cannot insert something in between a file. For example, your file had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 bytes written to it. You can die for it, but you cannot go to the 4th byte, pull this down, get some space over here, and push in a group of bytes. This is not possible. This is not possible in the memory. This is not possible on a file. In that sense, they are quite similar to each other. Of course, in a very painful job, you can remove these bytes, put it somewhere else in the memory or in some other file, get this space, and then write these in between the previously occupied stuff with something else, then copy them back to the end. That is possible. But that is not opening a space in there. It is just moving the bytes. And unfortunately, it is not possible to go beyond the end of a file. So it glows from the end on. You are allowed, if you have 7 bytes on here, you can go to the 0th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and to the 7th unwritten, uncreated position. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is not existing yet. You can tell the file to go to the index 7 only. You cannot go and go to the 8th position. No, that is not allowed. Only 7 is allowed. You fill out that 7, you write some byte on there, the file expands. Now 8 becomes writable. Now you can go and seek to 8. Random seeking is only possible among the already existing bytes plus the very last byte plus 1. Okay, now, and this is so if you have a randomly accessible file. Is there a mechanism that tells you whether the file is randomly accessible? No. You have to know it. Or you try to navigate in here, and the navigation function, fseek, tells you I cannot do that. The way to navigate in a file, move index that you are at is done by FC. It takes a file pointer in, and two things more: a number, a delta, and one of these three: C set, C cool, C and. These are integers coming from the stdioh header file. You shall always use the macro namings of them and not the integer values themselves. Just use seek set, seek could, seek and. Seek set means delta is according to the start of the file. So delta from the start is C set. The delta is added to the very last one, this one, is C and C cool is the index we are at right now. Is done this way. That is C cool. So let's assume we are here. Our index pointer is here, and we do a FC, the file, to C set. We are here, we are at 2. 2 plus this 2 makes 4. So this moves the pointer, the index pointer, to this. A read a byte instruction will read me this 4th byte. Actually, this is 5th byte because the starting is 0. So if I call it 4th, the first is 0th, right? If I change the seek set to, oh, by the way, let it be -1 and seek cool. We were here. We were at 2 position, position 2. 2 plus -1 is 1. So we move over here. A minus moves back, a plus moves ahead. What is the maximal number I can move to? A 1 moves me over here, a plus 1. A 2 moves me over here, that was the example. Plus 3 moves me over here. Plus 4 moves me to the very last byte existing. Plus 5 is the last allowed byte. It does not exist yet. If I move over here, I cannot read from here, but I can write something. Could I have done plus 5 is okay. Plus 6, that is not okay. Without having written the 5th plus 5, the 7th over here, I cannot move down. I cannot leave behind me unwritten bytes. So simple. Now, let's say we are over here again, and I change this to CENG. -1 according to CENG. What is CENG in my case? It is Z6. 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So this moves to 5. This CENG tells the delta, this one, is going to add it to what? For seek set, it is 0. For CENG, it is the count of bytes on the file. For seek_could, it is where we are in the file. Since it is randomly seekable, I can be at any position. A read and write automatically, silently moves this pointer, index pointer down. So let's say I read 2 bytes while I was here, silently, without my intervention. The scanf process moves this pointer down here. So the next scanf will be done from here. As a scanf or f read or get C, f get C consumes reads in bytes, this silently moves down. And I can set it back and forth as I like if it is a random accessible file. So seek set is according to the top, delta is added to 0, which is delta itself. seek_could is where we are. Delta is added to the index where we are, and CENG is the delta, this number is added to the size of the file. Okay. Now, there is a minor but very important point. Because of this intermediary buffering, you shall be very careful in changing actions. Now, it has a very old historical reason to do this. Goes back to these tapes. But the rule is this. if you change action from read to write or from write to read, you have to rewind the file. That is rule. Nothing rewinds actually. That is old history. In the old days, the tape rewind because to access another way, the head was moving back and changing itself. While doing so, you were disturbing the tape and you had to rewind it. But nowadays, this has nothing to do with a tape. There is nothing rewinding. The actual reason we have to do this is buffer synchronization. The time you do this, the buffer puts some of its information, sometimes all of its information, on the device. And unless you do this, something may remain in the buffer. You have written something, it is still in the buffer, and you attempt reading, and it will not go to the buffer for reading. There are changed elements. The reading is not done always from the buffer intelligently. To do it, even to have the intelligence work, you are supposed to do a rewind on it. What is the effect of the rewind? In the rewind, an FC to 0 seek set is done. This has the effect of seek FC of F, the file handle, 0 C set, the top of the file. So the index, you lose your index, you are here, you rewind, this goes up to here. Yes, so it is not only this that happens. Some other bookkeeping in addition to this is also done. So rewind F is not equal to this. It is FC to the top plus some internal bookkeeping. But usually you come to a position, you read, or you come to a position, you read it and decide to change this position to something else. You are reading, now you want to write something. Yes, it will go on top of these bytes. But now you rewind it because you are reading and now you are changing to writing, and this information is gone. So you have to reseed to that position. How is this done? First of all, before you decide to change from write to read or read to write, you memorize your last position. How? by an F tel. F tel F tells you your current position, your index pointer. Measured from the start, of course. The index is always from the start. So you, before the rewind, you do a F tel F, store it somewhere, mem into a mem, you take it, then you rewind. This goes up to the 0th one, as we have drawn over here. Then you do a fseek f mem, whatever you have memorized, mem, according to the top of the and then you are back at this position. Since you have done a rewind, now you are allowed to change your mode from read to write or from write to read. Now you can do that. So first, not to lose your position, memorize it by F-tel. Then fseek to that memorized position. In between. F-tel, then rewind, then fseek to the same position and change your action. That is the usual trick. Fseek tells you whether the action of changing the index position succeeded or failed. Succeed means 0. It tells what error happened. So 0 fseek gives you 0 means no error. Anything else not equal to 0, some error happened. And fseek did not work, right? The encoding of what the error is changes from system to system. You have to look up the manual. The non-zero number tells you what error happened on a decent operating system. Okay, so what have you learned? A short summary of it. Files are very much like memory, but they can grow only from their end. You cannot go beyond n plus 1. The only place that you can go is n plus 1 with the intention of writing something. Beyond that, you cannot go unless you have written something over here. So it grows from the end. You can alter for random accessible files the position where the action, the next action is carried out. We call this the file index or the file internal pointer. You can change this position from the top to down to here, anything in between. The way to do this is to call a function fseek. Fseek takes the file handle, the stream handle, then a number, and how this number is going to be interpreted. If it is seek set, it is added with 0. That means it is by itself. If it is seek and, it is added with the size of the file, the last position of the file actually. This file has 7 elements from 0 to 6. Seek and means add 6 to this number. Seek cool is used according to the position where we are, according to the file index last position. I can take it back with a minus value and a plus forward, provided that I do not attempt to exceed prior to 0 or beyond 6, beyond 7 for my case. Right? The only allowed range is something in between here and here. Okay, this completes read and write on files. Since it is a file is not a convenient structure to put something in between. It is not desirable, definitely it's not desirable to move data around in a file. The only thing that you would do is go back and overwrite or correct a byte, add a byte, correct a byte in there, change it, not add something. Also, it's not possible to remove 2 bytes from here and make this go up here. Theoretically, pulling these up by copying is possible, but it is extremely time-consuming. So we don't make our design on files based on a possibility to move this. We don't do it also in the memory. For that purpose, we have linked list, for example. We link chunks of data to each other through pointers in the memory. That is the memory. In the file, we do other tricks. We have constant chunks of data, and the ordering of it, or the killing or inserting something in there is done through another file that is called an index file. The index has nothing to do with this one. Right? An index file is in itself something else. It is a file which carries information about another file. This is unfortunately out of our scope. An index file is again something like this. You will go to the subject in your database course. Right? Your database course will start with files and how you organize data into files, and without disturbing it much, without moving much data around, how can I keep a fast way to access the data? That will be your data structure course.